This is part 55 of making food from every country. Today is Armenia, and a lot of people suggested I make this, so that's what I'm making. I started with the dough by combining 2 cups of flour, 1.5 teaspoon of instant yeast, 1 teaspoon of light brown sugar, a half teaspoon of salt, an egg, a half cup of warm milk, and a 1/4 cup of olive oil. I then kneaded it and let it rise for at least 2 hours. Next, I divided it into 4 portions and let it rise for another half hour. While I was waiting, I made the topping by blending together an onion, 2 cloves of garlic, some crushed tomatoes, some tomato paste, some fresh parsley, and some spices. Next, I rolled out one of the portions of dough on a greased baking sheet. I then added the sauce and some ground lamb. Lastly, I baked it at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for 10 minutes and topped it with some lemon juice. And this is how it turned out. It honestly tasted really good. This is part 54 of making food from every country. Today is Australia, and a lot of people suggested I make lamingtons, so that's what I'm making. I started by combining 2 cups of flour, 4 teaspoons of baking powder, and 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. I then set that aside, and in a separate bowl, I creamed together a half cup of butter with 3/4 of a cup of white sugar. I then mixed in 2 eggs, a teaspoon of vanilla extract, a half cup of milk, and the dry ingredients from before. I then poured the batter into a greased and floured pan and baked at 350 for half an hour. I then let the cake cool in the fridge for a few hours, and while I was waiting, I made the icing by combining 4 cups of powdered sugar, 1/3 of a cup of cocoa powder, 2 tablespoons of butter, and a half cup of warm milk. Lastly, I cut the cake into cubes, coated it in the chocolate and in some coconut, and this is how they turned out. They honestly tasted amazing. I even made some with jam in the middle, and I would definitely make these again.